Greetings programs, it's Otter. Today we're going to be talking specifically about working with the ISMI, that is the Intelligence Switching Microphone Interface, or also what we refer to as intelligence switching with audio cues, and its example program. Now, there's a few things you need to do ahead of time to be prepared. A couple of those things involve basically interacting with the microphone. So if you're not the audio guy, you're not doing the setup, just make sure that the audio guy gives you two things. If you got two microphones, you're going to need two IP addresses. If you got one, you need one. You also need to make sure that the microphone is configured to accept a connection for its API control. You'll be doing those in that software. Second part is you're going to need the cameraman software. Within the cameraman software, we've got a couple of things we've got to do. One of them is basically gather the IP addresses. Now remember, camera 1 has to be an I-12. You can mix and match the remaining 4 cameras. You're going to go into Camera Manager. You're going to discover the devices. You're going to get the IP addresses. This is also the opportunity for you to either leave them DHCP, set them static, one way or another. You should end up with the number of IP addresses that you have for the number of cameras. A couple other things you're going to do while you're in Camera Manager is you're going to connect and configure the I-12, which is acting as camera number 1, for multi-camera support. Don't worry about setting the IP addresses. The modules will register the cameras, the sub-cameras with the primary camera, but you need to make sure you've checked that box. You need to make sure that you go find the optimize for multi-camera and ensure that things like the visual version, the tracking part that you'll see down there in the corner, is deselected or off. Now, armed with that information, along with maybe a couple things, like if you have a TCCM, there's a password involved, you'll need that. If you're using ports other than the default ports, you'll need those too. Of course, you'll need a complete install of SIMPL Windows and Construct to continue on. So once we've gathered all of our information and we get into the room, if you wanted to try this as the example program or as it is, load it to a processor, check it out, see what it does, that's fantastic, which is kind of what we're going through here, just to make sure that you know how you can get it all working, check how everything is, and all that. That also means that the example program can be used as a stub for the room program, or you can encapsulate all of the logic that's in there by copying it into a folder, moving it into another program. Whatever your programming process for you, whichever one of those works, is the one you want to use. So armed up with that, let's go ahead and walk through just getting the example program up and running. So we're going to do a couple things. Now, we're going to have a file, we're going to have the compiled archive, and we're going to have a construct archive. So why don't we go ahead and start in construct and go from there. Now there's some things you should know. The example program's interface was created using the following two things that are part of the options. In construct, we are using modern layer order and classic widget list. There's a widget list in here. Now, for those that may not be familiar with modern versus classic widget list stuff, it has to do with whether it creates classic will create a monolithic contract symbol for your widget list, where the modern would create each widget item has its own. Here we did classic just for the simplicity of being able to, when we have to update or we change these kinds of things, making it easy to move signals and get that updated. So we're going to start by creating a new solution. So I'm going to go ahead and create the solution. There you go. You'll find out there's a project already here. Just for my simplicity, what I tend to do is I'm going to go ahead and just remove that project. So now I've got a basic open one. I'm going to go back up to my tools. I'm going to go to options, and I'm going to make sure that under general, I've got modern layer. Under build, I've got classic. I'm going to save that. I'm then going to come here. I'm going to import project. I'm going to go find my UI example, the archive. It's going to bring it in, and you'll notice that it creates a contract automatically, right? That's the first thing that happens. That happens on save. It's been imported. If you wish to take a look at this, this is your, you have the opportunity to go take a look at what's going on. I'm not going to make any changes. I'm just going to open the page so that you can see it. It is for a 1070 or a DGE 1000. It also works just fine as a web project, which you can then just load the resulting file after building into as a web project and move forward from there. So now that we've done that, let's go grab our program archive. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to go import archive program. I'm going to browse to the compiled program. I've already designated a place for it. Practicing. I'm going to overwrite files just for the purposes of this because I just want the ones that are there. I'm going to let them go ahead and put them into my user database files and stuff like that. I'm going to click start and we're off. Now, this is where we come into the IP addresses and the things that we needed to know. So within the demo program, if we go look underneath logic, you'll see that we have a camera control folder, we have a mic control folder, and then we have a UI control folder. Like I said, there are three kinds of modules. So we have the camera control module, we have three different microphone control modules. In here by default, it's the sure that is uncommented, but you simply comment out the one you don't have and comment in the ones you have. And it's within those that you'll be setting the IP addresses, password if it's a TCCM, and the port numbers if they changed. Otherwise, you're off to the races. And then the rest of this is supporting the UI module. So we've got that part done, but before I move any further, I want to make sure that my contract is up to date. Now remember, when we imported it, it created the contract. You'll see the contracts here. These were open from the original, but if I go check my GUI extenders, you'll see that it's a question. I don't know where this is because this probably doesn't exist in your space. So I'm going to go ahead and browse, and I'm going to go to my documents, Crestron, construct, solutions, the example UI, the example UI 5, which is what I'm looking for, output, contract, programming, simple, and do that. And I'm going to go ahead and commit the changes. Now, fortunately for us, because there were no real changes, we didn't do anything, this is basically ready to go. So now all I have to do is go and update the IP addresses and the example program to match the microphones and cameras. And that's pretty straightforward. The next question becomes is, well, maybe I don't have that many cameras for the example I'm doing. That's not what I'm going to use. So there's a couple pro tips here. This program was designed to scale. So how do I scale this to, say, right size? What if I say I've got one microphone and 3 cameras? Okay, so how do we scale to that? Now, for those of you who have been through and have been programming for a while, you've already got this. If you're kind of new to programming, this is your kind of first time running around, it's pretty straightforward. So we know that the first camera is going to be camera 1 with the multicam available. And we're going to go in and you're going to change the IP address for that. You're going to go and repeat said same for camera 2, right? And you just want to make sure that you don't confuse numbers. You want to update the IP address area in each one. But I only have 3, so I don't need camera 4 and I don't need camera 5. So pro tip, don't just delete. Comment out first, compile, make sure that you take care of any remnants, if you will. And then after that, after you've got a clean compile and you know it's good, you can go back, clean it up, and then either stub out from this program, move it over to the others. So I said that we weren't going to use Cam 4 or Cam 5. Now the naming convention here was done on purpose so it'd make it easy to kind of relate the signals and all that. So for cameras, since we only have 3, I'm going to go ahead and do and Alt F1 on cam 4 and Alt F1 on cam 5. I'm also going to come down here to the UI and come under the camera control section, and I'm going to Alt F1 and Alt F1 on both those cameras. Now I'm not quite done. There's still some signals that are on the touch panel that I'm going to need to work with, that I need to comment out. Instead of hunting and pecking, I'm going to cheat and hit F12. This is going to compile. Now it's not going to compile clean. We already know this, right? I've commented stuff out. I've left some entrails. But the nice thing is that it's going to give me a list which will take me straight to where I need to go to work through the rest of our little right sizing exercise here. So we're done with that. I'm not going to load. I just know that I've got a couple things here. It looks like 4 signals. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight those, find where it's not commented out, open that symbol. I see that I've got cam 4, cam 5, once again, following the naming conventions. And here I'm going to do an Alt F2, which will comment out those 2 signals. I'm then going to come here. I see that on my stepper, which starts my initial connections in the program, I've got a cam 4 and a cam 5 here. I'm going to highlight those, Alt F2, check my work, do a quick compile. And when we're done, we're going to be clean. Now the next thing is to right size the microphones. And once again, I have to go into the microphone folder anyway to update the IP address for them. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Close that. So I'm going to shrink this up. I'm going to shrink this up. I'm going to come over here, and you'll see that we've kind of commented things in. Hey, here's your mic. So let's say that we're using the TCCM for our one mic that we're using. So I'm going to Alt F1 out the Shure. I'm going to Alt F1 the Sennheiser TCCM. I'm going to pop that bad boy open. I'm going to update my password and my IP address, just like we had to. Go ahead and close that off. And I'm not using a second mic. So I'm just going to go ahead and Alt F1 that, and you'll see that everything in there is commented out. Once again, I'm going to go ahead and F12, right? Compile, save. And it's going to give me a couple of warnings once again, because there's some things I have to take care of. And it's pretty much anything titled Mic 2. And you're going to find those also as part of the touch panel. So, not going to send. I'm going to go ahead and double click on this. You'll see that the signal that we're looking for, or the signal group. So anything that says Mic 2 here, I'm just going to grab those. Alt F2, grab these. Alt F2. And then I see that in the list, I also have some feedback. So I can click on these, and once again, I'm going to get the list, go to the touch panel, and you'll see that Mic 2 and Mic 2, 2 signals, Alt F2, close this, and there's one last place I got to go, and that's over here to our connect. It was in the list. Sorry, I closed it, didn't go the other way. I just knew where it was. So I'm going to Alt F2 that. I'm going to hit my good old F12. I'm just going to default that to yes for my purposes for this moment. Generally, I like to leave that on to remind me that, hey, silly, you got stuff commented out. And when we're done, we should have a clean compile. We can now load the CH5 as is, or go build and load the CH5. I'm good to load. Load program, load interface, open it up in a web browser, or load it to your touch panel, however you're going to do that, and you're off to the races. So there you go, true believers. I'm Otter. Gave me a camera, gave me a mic, said make a show, and there you go. Thanks for joining me. Click your like, click your subscribe. See ya.